Welcome everybody, and thank y'all for joining us for another episode of Tennessee Talks. My good friend Sheriff Jimbo, James Berrong. I've always known him as Jimbo.
Jimbo's good.
It's good? Still good? All right. And he's sheriff here in Blount County. Blount County, if you don't know, backs up to the Smoky Mountains. Incredible amount of traffic. People are just, I don't know what your population has grown since you took sheriff, but I'd say it's substantial.
It's substantial.
Yeah. And when you first took over, how many people were on your force?
Including myself, 65 people.
65.
The whole county. That's corrections, court services, everything else.
That's just unbelievable.
Yeah, it is.
I can't believe you could do anything at that point. I guess everybody did a lot of overtime and everything else.
They did.
All right. Well, and now how many do you have?
About 350 people, and we're still as short-handed, believe it or not, as we were then.
No, I was going to say, I bet you with all the new population and everything, and the drugs and everything else. So anyway, well, let's go for a ride.
Looking forward to it.
This is Tennessee Talks with United States Congressman Tim Burchett.
Tell me, Sheriff, what made you get into law enforcement?
Well, Congressman, I don't know if you want this answer, but
Call me Tim.
Tim. I was a young man, and I spent a lot of time in the back of the cruisers because I was a little mischievous. Let me start over. I stayed in a little bit of trouble, just having fun, and they didn't think it was fun. My grandmother would have to come and get me or my parents.
Sure.
I was smart enough not to get in trouble when they were in town. So the Maryville Police Department got wiser than I did. They saw that jail wasn't a deterrent, but they knew my parents were. So they enjoyed taking to be my home and watching my daddy beat me and everything else it did. It didn't take many times to realize I wasn't afraid of the police at the time, but I was afraid of my mother and daddy. And I knew the chief of police very well. He's a great guy. I played golf at the Air Golf Course, John R. Blue, for about 30-year chief at City of Maryville. And he was my hero kind of, and I idolized him. And I don't know. I guess that answers your question.
Did you become a patrolman?
I did. I went to work for the sheriff's office in 1977 and worked about 6 months. And I went to the City of Maryville. And my first day there, I can remember vividly, was the day Elvis died, August 16th of 1977.
Well. I was on the way to Myrtle Beach. I can remember, and they announced they stopped everything, and it was just it was all the news for a couple of weeks, it seemed like.
To go back, I guess I'm saying I got to know the police through their enforcement efforts, and again, they got to be my friends. So I wasn't a bad kid, just a little.
Need a little direction.
Correct.
Well, we talked a little bit. We've talked a little bit about criminal activity, and how's that changed since you first got in law enforcement? I mean, I know the drugs and everything's going different, and electronics and everything else. How's all that changed?
Well, when I first came in, mainly, we dealt with the domestics, but most crimes we had in Blount County were crimes of opportunity. Somebody leaves their garage door open and somebody got them over, they'll take it.
Sure.
And Blount County changed from that and the drugs, the nucleus, or the catapult of about 90% of the bad things we deal with. And
so
it's going to stay there.
It's funding the drug epidemic, basically.
Yes.
Is what it's doing. Yeah, it's not somebody just greedy. They need a fix. So yeah.
And the crimes, whether it be whatever the crime, about 90% of it will come back. They were high when they committed that crime,
right?
Or they were trying to commit a crime to get money or access to get high. So it all comes back to substance abuse issues.
Right. I've noticed that there's kind of a cohesive group with you sheriffs, at least in East Tennessee. I've noticed they're very friendly. In the past, it hasn't always been that. And I know that you and Sheriff in Knox County are close, and like yourself, I guess he came up through the ranks and seen all the changes and everything. But this fentanyl is just kind of, mean, it's everywhere.
It's the devil, I'm going to tell you right now.
It
really
is the devil.
And how it affects just the innocent people out here and the innocent families that have people that's into the drug abuse or addicted to the drugs. It's sad to see the parents, the grandparents, aunts and uncles that I deal with almost on a daily basis that wants to help, and unfortunately,
you can't.
Unless they want to help, you can't get them help.
No, I was going to say, you can love them and talk to them and smack them on the butt. That ain't going to.
No, it's not. I try to tell them that sometimes tough love, or 99% of the time, tough love's the only way to go.
Only way to go. You're exactly right. A buddy of mine who went through the program on some stuff told me one time, he said, brother, he said, sometimes you have to live under a bridge before you realize, you got to hit rock bottom.
There's no doubt about that.
And with fentanyl, though, it seems rock bottom happens pretty quick. I had some legislation I introduced that would, for traffickers, it would issue them either a life sentence or, I would like to give the death penalty, but that ain't happening, but it was a life sentence for certain levels. And at the time, it didn't get a lot of traction, but it's funny, when I proposed that legislation, it made a little national news or something. I got a call from a guy in South Carolina, I'll never forget this, and he said his kid was on Aderall, which is like an attention something, I don't know, a lot of kids are on it now, but anyway, and he had a prescription for it, but his prescription ran out, and his buddy was also on it, and he thought he was, and he gave him an Aderall, but it was identical pill, but they crushed it out or whatever in somebody's garage, and it was bootleg, and it was laced with fentanyl, and they found him dead, and the pill was still in his mouth. He literally just touched his lips and got his tongue on it and crushed it, and he died right then. It was that strong. I mean, I just don't think people realize the strength of this stuff.
And what a tragic loss of life. So valuable, and they just
gone.
It's gone.
And he wasn't even a drug abuser per se. It was just a situation where he trusted his buddy, and his buddy screwed up big time on it. What are your deputies? I know they face a lot of problems. What are some of the biggest they face? Is there a psychological thing that you have to take that into consideration? I would.
No doubt about it. Whether it be fit for duty after a tragedy occurred.
You're going to domestic or some kids abused and they got a family. I mean, I just can't. I watched a film this week on Hamas and how they are treating some of these Jewish people, cutting their heads off, shooting little kids under desks and stuff. And I was like, holy cow. I mean, I couldn't imagine the military seeing that, but the people in the room that were watching this video, people were leaving, getting physically ill, crying, and and people just walked out of there in shock after it was over with. And I just thought, man, maybe we might need to bring in a counselor literally for this for some folks.
And Tennessee has a great support area. Is statewide. They got a federal grant years ago, but the deputies, we've been on issue, whether it be a car wreck that have 5 or 6 children killed in it, a house fire that's 4 or 5 children, issues like that, and they're human beings, I'm a human being, and there's no way that it doesn't affect them. So they've really got a good formula. If we get people in within the first 72 hours to debrief them and go through the success rate is really astronomical. If we don't, it's a major problem.
Wow. So where are we heading to right now?
Now, this is the Sheriff's Office warehouse, and we store a lot of equipment that we have that would keep it out of the weather and ready to go at any time, whether it be command centers, boats, armored personnel carriers. And right down here we're in the process of building a drug task force building. Okay. It's a cooperative between Blount County Sheriff's Office, Blount County government, and the City of Maryville and City of Alcoa. We just sold the place where we're in. It had about 3,500 square feet. It's been outgrown for probably about 7-8 years. It's sad that we're having a building like this. We got it big enough to get our federal partners and our state partners and our other local partners in this building, that we can have the partnerships and share the network of intelligence. As you can see, it's hopefully it will be done this spring. It's got a full-size basement, about 10,000 square feet.
Excellent.
And again, it's sad we're having to build that, but it's a necessity that we do.
Yeah, and it's the cost of doing business.
It is.
When you get a lot of these folks moving in from the big cities, do they bring their big city problems with them, or are they trying to get away from them?
Well, that's a great question. And I would think about, believe it or not, about 80-90% of the people are here to get away from them. And we got so many good people moving in and that don't want to change a thing, that likes their East Tennessee philosophy and qualities of life. And I really like to enjoy meeting those people. Again, you'll have, I say 20%, maybe too high, maybe 10%. That, again, they want to bring in those things they're running from, they want to bring them with us.
Yeah, I never understand that. I go to a lot of these areas, and literally some of them are more conservative than you and I are that come in because they've seen it and they've lost it all. They lost all of it where they were from, and they know what's going on there.
And they're quick to tell me when I meet them, but we don't change anything, so they understand what our thought process is.
I think they probably enjoy a little bit more of the law and order and the respect for law enforcement and our military and things like that we have here.
And not only the entire state of Tennessee, but especially East Tennessee, how blessed we are to be in a profession that has had a rough time for the last number of years, but to continue to have the support of our citizens in Blount County and the surrounding counties. And you mentioned earlier the sheriffs, the fraternity kind of we have are all friends in this area. And
well, your counties butt up to each other, and if something runs over, it's a fluid.
It's fluid.
And you got to have that cooperation.
And the citizens win from that. Whether I take a team to Knox County or they send a team here or vice versa, it's a win because
you don't have to get a court order. It's just a phone call, it's just you're there and you have to call them afterwards and say, hey, we're there.
We did a commercial, Sheriff Spangler, myself, and Jimmy Davis, and not long ago, and Tommy Jones from Monroe County. It's criminals have no boundaries. They don't know where the stop sign, where the street sign says Blount County, welcome to Blount County, you're exiting Monroe County or Knoxville. So it's working together is a win-win for every citizen. One thing I would like to say, of course, I know, and I just said a minute ago about the stress law enforcement has been under. The recruiting and retention has been really, really hard for Dolly Bond.
I can't imagine you could pay them what they're,
Right. But it's been so hard for the sheriff's office, and we've been kind of the bottom of the barrel for some reason for many, many years. And a lot of sheriff's offices, unfortunately, are like that compared to the municipality or the state or federal agencies. Well, the mayor and the county commission has seen in a couple of years the issues, and it's really cheaper for us to hire good quality people, retain them, and have the experience level there, so we won't make a mistake as say Shelby County did, just trying to put a uniform on somebody to do a job. It just don't work in this profession.
No, that's what happened. That's where you got a bad situation.
It's going to cost that community $30, $40, $50 million. It would be cheaper to pay them. But the county mayor Ed Mitchell and our county commission, 21 of them, stood strong this year and really took care of the sheriff's office employees. And we've seen the attracting employees. The interest in Blount County has gone sky high. The retention has been fantastic. So we're not having to train the same position over a person this month, and next year we have to do the same thing again. So it's really cheaper on the community, and with the experience level helps us.
367.7.
But I do want to brag on them for what the efforts they took this last budget year.
The federal government years ago, I guess they still do it. We still do it. They send you these grants or whatever, and then they run out after a couple of years, and then if it's a good program, you want to continue. There's no other way to do it but to go to your commission, and then they have to scrounge. And it might be stuff that you needed, but I know after 9/11, all the stuff they bought, I can't imagine where that stuff is now, because it just didn't, it didn't materialize that you needed it, but you lost it, so that you had to spend it, and then and then a lot of the stuff they had just never got used, which was unfortunate. I wish they'd thought a little bit ahead of that and just thought about traditional law enforcement. Right. That's what you get when you have a bunch of politicians wanting to cut ribbons and not get with the sheriffs and the law enforcement people prior to it.
They were.
There's our barbecue place that went out down here, didn't they? Tore it down there.
They tore it down. The Chamber of Commerce bought that lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they went out of business here. They had a couple places in Knoxville, and they went out over there too.
Came over to speak at something. I'm like, dadgum, there's something must be going on over here. And then I realized when I got inside it, I was going on. I was the one speaking. I parked over here in their other lot over here. Yeah, Pat Gibson in my office, he was a big fan of that barbecue. And
It's great.
He just goes by, and I think he wants to place a wreath there every time he drives by. All right, Sheriff, what are some of the unique challenges y'all have in your law enforcement here in Blount County?
Really not that much difference than any law enforcement issues that they have. I can't sit here and think of a unique cause that's different than another county right now. I really can't.
Well, I mean, I guess the drugs, that just goes everywhere.
It goes everywhere.
Fentanyl, it's just coast to coast.
And I appreciate you addressing the fentanyl laws. And their problem here is the truth in sentencing. The laws can be on the books, but if you say, well, they just serve 30%, and the federal government's a lot better than the state on that.
Sure.
And truth in sentencing, there lays the problem. You got to have a deterrent for an action, and we don't have that.
We're going to have a little wreck right there. Maybe you can get out and show me your skills. You got any big plans for Thanksgiving?
Not really at all. That's not a bad thing.
No, that's a great thing.
It really is,
I need a break sometimes after my breaks.
Yeah, my birthday is this year. Last year's on Thanksgiving. This year's on the Friday, the day after. I'll probably eat Saturday with my kids or something. And sometimes I go down to my ex-wife's family. They have a great relationship with them.
Yeah.
I might go down there.
Kids.
Yeah,
wonderful kids.
I'm very, very blessed that you are.
Yes. Yes, I am. Well, Sheriff, thank you, brother. I appreciate you. This is the part that I hate of this podcast the most, and that my viewers love the most. It's that you get to ask me anything you want.
Are you enjoying your job?
Next question. No, actually,
you weren't expecting that one.
I know it's public service. It's just it's a different level. And yeah, I enjoy it. The thing I like about it is I was at lunch today, and the guy that was who was a server there, he was helping us, and he'd said something that, I'm sure you've heard this 1,000 times. He said, that we'd done something for his family, and I tell you, that means more.
Very gratifying.
That is very gratifying. I remembered what he was talking about, and and how it had worked out and everything. And he made a call. He wasn't a wealthy person like the people that put you in office, but they're the ones that keep us in office.
That's
and when they come up to you and say, and they mean it, because he's working, he's managing half a restaurant there, his section was, and he was just and that means everything.
It does.
Everything.
That's why we're here.
Sheriff, brother, I appreciate you more than you know.
Same here. Look forward to seeing you.
It's been a great friendship, so thank you for years. And I'm Congressman Tim Burchett. This is another episode of Tennessee Talks, and again, thank y'all for sending me here. And I want to thank my good friend Sheriff Jimbo Berrong. He's been a great friend of mine for years, and he's been great to my family. And I always feel very safe and secure when I'm in Blount County, especially if my girls are over here. So, Sheriff, thank you, brother. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Tennessee Talks. Please subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Keep up with Congressman Burchett by following Rep. Tim Burchett on Twitter and Instagram, and Congressman Tim Burchett on Facebook and YouTube.